Claire, what can you tell me about flu?
Well, influenza is the official name, but lots of people know it, and it's most commonly known as the flu. So it's an acute viral infection of the respiratory tract, and there's 3 different types. So you've got your A, your B and your C. But A and B are responsible for most of the clinical illness, and the C is a more milder version. So hence why the vaccine consists of the A and B strains. So the vaccine itself takes 6 months to produce. So they do 6 months worth of surveillance in the southern hemisphere, and that's all monitored by the World Health Organization. And then obviously it's off to manufacturer for the 6-month period. So it's really easily spread, and it's spread through the secretions of the infected person. So that's either via coughing, sneezing, and being in touch, direct contact with those coughs and sneezes secretions. So once you do get your vaccine, it takes up to 14 days to give you that full protection. So people will often say, you know, the vaccine's giving me the flu. That is definitely not the case, because it isn't actually a live vaccine. It's inactivated, but it can be that you can have some effects from getting your vaccine. So it's your immune response. So obviously your body realises there's something different here, and obviously it sets up that immune response. It could be that you get a mild fever, or you could get a little bit of sniffles or a cough, but it shouldn't be long lasting. It should usually subside by a 48-hour period, and you should be okay. But it's just so people know that within them 14 days they could come in contact with somebody who does have the flu, and it's not a direct implication of actually having the vaccine. So have you had your vaccine?
I have. I have it every single year, and I have for the last 10 years.
Right, okay. Is there anything that prompted you when you say 10 years ago? Is there anything that made you get it?
Can you remember the swine flu pandemic in 2009?
Yeah.
That was a big reason why
Right.
I had it, yeah. My daughter Molly, she was 3 at the time, and she'd just started school nursery, and it was the end of September she picked up this cold, and that went to her chest, and she was very wheezy, so we were backwards and forwards to the doctors, just kept saying it was a viral wheeze and sending us on our way. She actually ended up in hospital for about 5 days, and during that time they just kept saying it's a viral wheeze. We'll treat her with nebulizers, and we've just got to wait for the virus to run its course. So they discharged her after 5 days, and I wish I'd have listened to my mother's instinct, because I knew she wasn't 100%. And it was the day after discharge that we were at home, and she just went downhill very rapidly. She couldn't breathe, she was struggling to breathe, her lips were going blue, she was panicking. You know, I rang an ambulance. By the time we'd got to hospital, Molly had collapsed, she'd gone unconscious, there was no response from her. You know, they rushed her through into resus, and it was like a scene out of Casualty and ER, you know, when they're round the bed in resus working on the patient, and it was like an out-of-body experience. I was just stood like back away from the doctors, but just watching on, and my poor little girl, the doctor that had discharged her the day before actually came and spoke to me, and she said, actually what we think has happened is Molly's had swine flu.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So I bet you could not believe it was swine flu.
No, I couldn't believe it. So at first I was relieved that they've actually found out what was wrong with her. But then I moved on to, well, how has she got this? Where has she picked it up from? She's only just started nursery. There's nobody at nursery that's reported as being poorly with it. And then the more I started reading into it, actually discovered that it could possibly have been me that passed it on to her. Because
were you poorly?
No, I wasn't.
All right, okay.
I didn't actually have it, but there was quite a few patients and staff members where I was working at the time that were affected by it. So the more I read into it, the more I kind of started to understand about, you know, subclinical infection and
So there's a lot of research that's now coming about that shows quite a high percentage. The most recent was the 77% can be actual asymptomatic carriers of the infection. So like you say, you unknowingly could have potentially, so where you worked there was other people unwell with swine flu, so you could have unknowingly passed it on.
Yes. and I've not had my flu vaccine that year either.
Hence why
Hence
for the
why.
last 10 years you've been getting your flu vaccine.
Yes, I have it every single year now without fail.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then poor Molly now, she's 13, is left with, you know, asthma, really bad asthma. So since then I've had my vaccine every single year, and the more I started looking into it, the more I started finding out about the far-reaching effects, and I've become more and more passionate about it, spreading the word about it, you know, that you can unknowingly take the virus home to your more vulnerable members of your family.
It's on well, doesn't it, to talk about herd immunity. So the more people that do get vaccinated, the more protection we're giving to everybody, particularly, like I say, for more vulnerable members of our community that can't actually get the vaccine. The herd immunity will kick in, because we need up to about 85% of the population to become vaccinated to protect, you know, that 15% that can't actually have the vaccine for one reason or another. I think that's really important as well.
And as
I
you
couldn't
know,
agree with you more.
we've got the flu campaign every year, haven't we, for
Of course.
CHUV. So CHUV members of staff, we can get our vaccine free of charge by chief flu fighters. And doing that, having that vaccination every year, we're doing our part for the community towards herd immunity.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thanks very much for sharing that very personal experience, and I'm sure that you will have highlighted to people how important getting your flu vaccine can be, because although you're in a working environment, you continuously have a duty of care, it's also just making people more aware of the effects it can have on your own personal family as well, so the importance of vaccines in themselves.